Started.
Okay, we're going mute. Dominic, your
Yeah.
original screen.
A very good morning to one and all. A warm welcome on behalf of Persistent Campus team and myself, Dominic Demiller. I'm part of the campus recruitment team and I'm based out of Pune location. It has been a great season interacting with you, students, faculty, and training and placement officers from various colleges across India. This is our eighth uh, webinar series that we have been conducting, and it's been a kind of great success for all of us with huge number of participants for all our sessions. Today, we are conducting our concluding session for the Career Recropedia session, and we are looking forward to do many more sessions in the season ahead. And with the kind of support that we have received from you all and the kind of feedback that we have been receiving from each of you from each session after the other. So for today, in order to take this ahead, I have one of our best technical experts, subject matter experts, when it comes to the particular topic for today. And before we go ahead, let us listen to her background. And I think the session for today to start with is towards bridging AI skills gap between industry and academia. And we are very pleased to have our guest speaker for today, Ms. Anibha Athalye. She is the practice head for AL and ML. Anibha is a practice head for AI and machine learning at Persistent. She has 20 plus years of experience in software design and development, primarily in data, BI, and analytics. Anibha has played various technical and techno-managerial roles at Persistent, including delivery, pre-sales, solutions teams, data platform, modernization, and machine learning, and key areas of interest for Anibha. So apart from this, she is one of our superwomen for persistent systems, and over the years has been delivering a huge success to the business through her interventions in technology and sales. So warm welcome to Anibha from our side for today. And before we go ahead with the session, we have a small poll that we would be conducting for all of you to be a little bit engaged. So to start with, the very first poll that would be coming up for you students, how many of you have got yourself vaccinated during this COVID season, which is ongoing, and we have the vaccination drives all across the country? You could go into the question section, you'll see the poll that is there. You can feed in your details, and we'll just call out how many people have got themselves vaccinated. Yeah, Sudeep, you have the poll?
Yes, I will just share the screen. Yeah. Can you see the screen?
Yes. So we've got 181 responses. Okay. So we have a good 70+% of people who have got vaccinated, and that's a good percentage. And we see a good positivity in terms of each one of us being safe by getting vaccinated. So before we get into the session and we have Anibha to take charge, we have a small poll to start the session on, since it's a very relevant topic, and I can see a lot of registrations that have come. We have almost approximately 7,000 plus registrations, and this has been one of the highest number of registrations for a technical session that we have conducted. We had bigger numbers for our very first opening session, but this in terms of technical. So it shows this is one of the most interest areas for students. And to start with a short poll, and you'll see the question coming up in the Q&A section. You can just queue in and see the question and fill in your details. There's no right and wrong answers, just to get a feel of where do you stand in terms of your interest with AI and ML. So how familiar are you with AI and ML technologies? So the options that would show you on your screen would be not much aware, basic knowledge, project-based on AL and ML technology, active contribution and part of community like Kaggle and Analytics Vidya. Yeah, Sudeep, can you bring up the poll scores?
It's Dominic. Just wait a minute.
Yes.
Shouldn't get this. Just give me a minute.
Yeah. So Anibha, a warm welcome on behalf of the campus team for today's session. So by the time Sudeep pulls up the poll results, just to understand your association with artificial intelligence and machine learning, how long it has been you working with this particular field, and how does this excite you, and what do you see in terms of its journey ahead?
Thank you, Dominic, and thank you for the wonderful introduction. Hello, everybody. A very good morning. First of all, let me say, this topic on artificial intelligence is very close to me, and I'm very excited to be talking to actually the students on this topic. I actually have been working, like you said, with Persistent for 20 years. Most of my work in Persistent has been around data and analytics. So at least, about 14 years. And that's where, I did a lot of work around business intelligence and data mining, finding out insights from data when I worked with our customers to build this business intelligence kind of platforms. So it was very natural shift for me to, kind of while dabbling into data, kind of moved into more advanced topics of how, actionable insights can be really derived when you're looking at, huge data sets and massive data processing that needs to be done. So
Okay.
it was about after working in this field of data and analytics for 10 years, it was like about 3 years back that, I kind of got very intrigued with this field and moved into artificial intelligence and machine learning. Yeah, that's what. And the journey has been very exciting.
So 20 long years is a big time in an organization. You've almost seen the ups and downs with the organization. You've seen the ups and downs in the industry. You've seen so many things changing, automation happening. So how does one at your level keep yourself updated as to what is happening? Where is the drive that comes from within in terms of continuing with learning continually in the industry?
Lovely question. One is, of course, as part of the role that I play at Persistent, we get to talk to customers a lot, right? And I look forward to talking to these leaders across the industry to, get a lot of insights, from an industry perspective, the technology has to be applied to achieve the business outcomes that are being, outlined by these leaders. And I really look forward to those conversations that we have, to get an idea of where the technology advancements in technologies can really be applied to achieve the business outcomes. That's one. The second part is, and which is of course an area that I'll cover, is there is so much of knowledge sharing that is happening in this industry, especially machine learning and artificial intelligence, and wonderful webinars being conducted. The opportunity of COVID has also thrown this virtual conferences that are happening. They are being offered for free, and it's an excellent platform to kind of keep yourself updated on the latest and the greatest that is happening. And the third is, of course, the community platform, which allows you to contribute a lot and learn from the contributions and the developments that are happening even at the open source level. So yeah,
Awesome.
Those are the three channels.
I think once we get into the session and whatever you share in terms of your information and knowledge, I think the students will really benefit out of this session for today for sure. So before we get into your session and give you the charge rather than making you wait for long, and also the students, let's quickly see the poll results so that we can just get started.
Sure.
Can you see my screen?
Yes. So approximately 285 respondents who have responded, and what I can see is percentage-wise, basic knowledge is what I can see that is on the higher side, and not much aware is the second that's coming in. So that leaves a lot of room for Anibha to further delve into this technology and give them the maximum that they can understand as a knowledge sharing session. Yeah, all to you.
Cool. Let me share my screen and let me know once you are able to see that. Dominic.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we are able.
Okay. Okay. Great. So let's get started. I saw the poll, and most of you have at least the basic knowledge of AI and machine learning. The intent of the session that I'm planning, that I'm doing today, is not really to go through ML AI 101, but actually kind of help identify where is the gap when you are trying to pursue an AI ML career path. How do you bridge the gap that exists between the industry and academia? So let's start here. Machine learning, artificial intelligence, even if all of us have not really dabbled to the extent of working or developing on these technologies, we kind of know that it's everywhere, right? You will hear this keyword artificial intelligence enabled almost in every other sphere. Wherever you're looking at apps, you're looking at applications which are coming out, you'll see this in day-to-day life also. You'll see artificial intelligence technologies like speech to text processing, document processing being used very, very rapidly, and the adoption is increasing day by day. So these are just what you see on the screen, some of the examples where you will see machine learning, artificial intelligence. Even if we talk about certain advanced fields like healthcare, artificial intelligence technologies like computer vision and neural network based diagnostics are being used heavily, especially in the healthcare diagnostics area. Can I really look at the data? Can a machine look at the data instead of subject matter experts, and at least give the first conclusive diagnosis, which can then be further looked upon by subject matter experts? And this plays a very, very crucial role, especially in areas where there is a shortage of human resource to really cater to every need that is required to be there. So across the industry, whether you talk about healthcare, whether you talk about financial services, whether you talk about retail, marketing, everywhere you will see artificial intelligence and machine learning in our day-to-day lives also. For example, if you are going over a web portal and you've done some activity over there, that activity is trapped, and immediately you might get a SMS saying that, hey, are you interested in this upcoming product that we have, or an upcoming webinar that is happening, or an event that is happening? So really what is happening at the back of all of this is a machine that is sitting quietly looking at the actions that you are performing, and basis of those actions, it is then kind of prompting you or proactively reaching out to you to either take a next step or action what we call as an actionable step on the basis of the behavior that it has kind of learned. And so this is like everywhere, and we know it is powerful. We know that it is the next step for almost every other application, every other program, every other organization, every other enterprise that is starting on AI ML enabled programs. Now, while we are talking about all of this, if we just go slightly back into the history, artificial intelligence has been there for quite some times. And I'm not really going to go over each of this, timeline, but the developments has been there. The first neural network perception was there, in the 50s itself. And then, there has been a lot of progress that has happened over a period of time. However, if you look at it from an industry adoption perspective, we'll find that it is in the last decade that the adoption has suddenly increased. You will see application of artificial intelligence in day-to-day life much more in the last decade or so. It is not that the research, the transformational stuff about AI, artificial intelligence, and ML was not happening. It was happening very steadily, but then the adoption has suddenly increased. Now, when we look at the reasons of what has changed for this adoption, increase, or what has happened, because the day-to-day applications everywhere we are seeing application of artificial intelligence and machine learning, there are three key reasons. The first is the availability of the data. So when these techniques started surfacing in terms of being able to make sense of massive data sets without human intervention, or rather with minimal human intervention, people started collecting more data. And that data started being collection was supported by frameworks, by technology advancements, which could do the data collection at a faster rate. What I mean is, of course, the digitization, wherein you will see even in a small village nowadays, it's not a paperwork that is happening. There is a transformation, digital transformation that is happening, where everything is getting captured, and that digitized data is then available for scrutiny by machines at a faster rate. That's one. The second is the data is getting captured at real times. You have sensors being fitted across surveillance locations, which are collecting data to even capture the movement of the people, and so on and so forth. So data availability. And then there are certain governance factors which are coming in, as data is being used extensively, which is also requiring organizations, which are also requiring governments to kind of retain the data for a longer duration, which is then available either from a governance perspective or from an audit perspective. So because data is available, you are able to apply these technologies on this data and then start making sense of it. The second aspect which has increased the adoption is the infrastructure availability. What it means is that huge storages, and the storage is becoming cheap. So you have these massive cloud data centers which are allowing you huge data storage. The disk size, the way they charge you has decreased a lot. It's pay as you go. So you use for the compute today, you don't use the compute tomorrow. You're not required to buy those huge data centers or build those huge data centers if you want to try out things, if you want to run massive processes on data. So infrastructure availability has become very, very easy, and it has become cheap, right? And that is that is another reason why the adoption definitely has increased, and there is a lot of excitement to try out new things without initial cost that was associated with respect to infrastructure. And finally, of course, the technology advances which are happening, advanced algorithms, they were steadily happening. That research was steadily happening. It is still happening. And then, parallel and fast processing, which is enabled by, massively parallel distribution frameworks, is what has, really boosted the adoption of AI and machine learning across the industry and across, the day-to-day lives that we have. So going to this, the adoption, the question now is not whether organizations or applications or governments should really investing in adoption of AI. That's not the question. They have to do it. They have to be there. And it is more about how fast will they be able to be there. And when the adoption of a technology in the industry is increasing, naturally, the first thing that you need to support this is the human capital. You need human capital to be aware of the technology. You need human capital to be well versed with those technologies, to be able to, kind of make the most benefit out of it. And that is the topic of discussion that we have today. So with this, with this base, now if you look at while artificial intelligence, there are these autonomous cars that are happening. There is a lot that Google is doing with respect to face detections and stuff like that. The most common way artificial intelligence and machine learning is being used in industry is how this is how I see it, is in three key areas. One, automating business processes, and this is more so with the advent of COVID, right? You don't want to depend on lot of human workforce to do repetitive things. Machine learning is best at doing repetitive things. It can learn from those patterns, it can learn from those repetitions, adapt to those changes very, very fast. So automating business processes, wherein you are employing machines to actually take some decisions without the human interventions and do things efficiently and quickly, which is going to lead of course to some cutting costs, but more so remove the human dependency, is where the most applications of machine learning and artificial intelligence in industry are happening. The second area is gaining insights with data analysis, and this is like where you churn huge amount of data, look at certain patterns in vast amount of data to help you take informed decisions. And these informed decisions could be towards understanding how, let's say, the users are using your product, and look at those features which users are probably using more, and then take informed decision to improve your products. These can be towards looking at the behavior of users, and then predicting certain risk or predicting certain behaviors which can reduce the risk, and this is largely applied to financial sectors also. So that is another area where in industry AI ML is being used a lot. And the third area is with what we called as experience modernization. How do you interact with how do you engage with your customers? And this has got to do a lot with a proactive way of reaching, proactive way of recommending things to your customers. As a very, very simple example, with the advent of COVID, you'll see that the lot of online market even for grocery has increased. Now can I use these technologies to really start finding out the pattern of when a particular customer typically shops? So identifying the shopping pattern, identifying can I pre-fill the carts of those, all those are taking very, very front seat, basically making the life of end user simple, making them aware that the brand is doing something which recognizes their specific features, is where you use artificial intelligence and machine learning to engage with your customers. Now, if you look at all of these, why I wanted to bring this topic or this particular slide in context of the conversation today is that if you look at all of these, what is important is not only just the machine learning model which is doing all of this, or multiple machine learning models which are working in tandem to achieve the business outcome. What also becomes important is how do you present the outcome of that machine learning or artificial intelligence model to the end users. So it's not just about that one model working in isolation. It is about the entire workflow which is going to get you the outcome that you want to reach to. So with this, let us look at how machine learning model development happens. And this is same even if you are engaged right now, and I saw in the poll that some of you are already working on machine learning, are aware of the basics, are trying to build a project on top of it as part of your academic work. The steps remain the same, right? You collect and analyze your data. Most times when you do it as part of your academic project, this data is an offline data set. So you collect, you analyze data, then you of course cleanse the data, prep the data, select the algorithm, which you think would best answer, and you iterate over it, of course. You do certain level of hyperparameter tuning, and then, you look at the evaluation. You try to see whether, the outcome that you're getting is really aligned to the hypothesis on which you kind of started. And in case of business, it is, going to the business SMEs and, getting their validation on the model that is created. And then you iterate this process, right? Until you're satisfied that, you are getting a model which is, in academic terms, having higher accuracies, in corporate or industry terms, aligned to the business outcome. So more or less the steps, kind of remain the same. So these are the key aspects, creation of the data or preparation of the data, the algorithmic selection, the tuning, and then validation. Okay. Uh, I'll take a pause over here. And Sudeep, what I would like to ask all of you is, and those of you who have dabbled into this or have at least the basic know of machine learning, if you could answer a poll for me, which kind of says, where do you think, the machine learning people would be spending most of your time on? Sudeep, if you could just, bring up that poll for people.
Yeah. Yeah, possible.
So Anibha, by the time our participants get into answering the poll, so with your experience in technology that has been evolving over the years, where do you see AI or ML being there in the industry? How long that you see or this would again further evolve and get into a more advanced technology in the future ahead?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, see the advancements, like I said, the adoption is just increasing. There's no question right now whether, industry should really adopt to artificial intelligence or not. It's only a question of, how soon they can adopt to, reap the benefits out of it. The way I see it is like, it is the most essential thing for all organizations to, kind of adopt this technology. Otherwise, it's a simple thing of being back in the race as against to competition. I do not see this technology. I just see the technology being used more advancements to this technology happening. I really am very excited to see how this unfolds, and we'll see. I'm sure we'll see more of this into our day-to-day life as well.
True. There's a lot of acceptance by the industry and also businesses. I definitely see a huge rise in terms of the demand of this particular technology. And simultaneously, I think the workforce would also get aligned in getting trained and working on these technologies in future.
Absolutely. The acceptance has been huge in the sense that if you see some of the AI ML work is now getting approved even by FDA, which is which is where, the human life is actually coming into picture. So yeah,
Sure.
absolutely, Dominic.
So Sudeep, quickly, if we can have the poll results, and so that Anibha can get into the next part of this. Okay, we see a huge percentage of people who have responded to clearing and organizing data. It's cleaning, I think, if I'm, it's a little bit.
Yeah.
It's not visible. Yeah.
No worries, but I get the idea. So thank you so much. And I think it is kind of well aligned to what we see as well. I hope my screen is visible.
Yeah, Anibha, I think you have to reshare the PPT.
Dominic, is it visible now?
Yeah, it's visible.
Yeah. So thank you so much for your poll. And the percentage is reflective of what we see in industry as well. However, the amount of time that actually, or the percentage of time that is actually spent into collection and analyze and prepping of data is much more. It is absolutely the most important area where data scientists, machine learning engineers really spend time more than any of the others, which is, the algorithm selection or the hypertuning or any of the other aspects. That's because, we know that, all algorithms, all machine learning algorithms would work best on the data. So yeah, data preparation, data collection, analysis, cleansing, even organizing the data the way you want it for your entire machine learning workflow to work is the most important area where, a lot of time is being, kind of spent. So let's kind of move from this to, how what is the real picture when we build AI machine learning enabled applications for our customers and how they are built in the industry. So what do you see on the in the base, and this is, I'm sure most of you are, a lot of you are familiar with this. The ML work that we've been speaking about is here. This is your ML code, the small gray box, which is your algorithm, which is training the training data set and fitting an algorithm on top of it. That's it. But if you see the boundary of the entire application, those other boxes are so much of work that goes into enabling an application with machine learning and artificial intelligence technologies. So there is process management, which is, the workflow part of it. How do you, kind of enable the complete ML systems? How do you ensure that the user is able to interact with the machine learning model in the most efficient ways? And there's a lot of thought process that goes into it. There's a lot of resource management that needs to be done. You are talking about, training a machine learning algorithm on huge data sets. So that's a training time, infra and resources that you're going to be needing. More importantly, when you are deploying a machine learning model in production, you have to take care of how many user requests are going to be going to that model. How many people will concurrently log in and expect machine learning to start giving certain outcomes, and all those need to be done at, real time. There is of course the data collection piece that we spoke about, certain automation, verifications, feature engineering, and a whole lot of things including monitoring. So what I wanted to really stress on was that beyond the machine learning code, beyond the basic machine learning algorithm, which is, taking a training data set, splitting it into train and validation data set, taking that training data set and fitting an algorithm on top of it, and then, judging the algorithm on the basis of matrices that you have identified. There's a lot more that goes behind the scenes if you want to create a machine learning AI enabled solution. And that's why it's not just the machine learning model, it goes beyond into a complete machine learning system that needs to be built. And if you're trying to build these complex systems, there are certain complexities which kind of come into picture. So very quickly, when you just look at developing an ML AI model in an industry, you're looking at all these tasks, all these activities that need to be done. The left hand side of it is something that you would be familiar of. You have data selection, you do feature engineering on top of it, and we discuss this hyperparameter and model explanations and collaboration that needs to happen and stuff like that, which is what typically, the core area of data scientists is. On the right hand side, what you're looking at are the DevOps engineer stuff, which is, how do you ensure that you will be able to do automated model deployment? And this is where, the difference between building a model in academic stuff and, industry comes into picture, because you cannot all the time say that, there is an aspect of manually going and deploying a specific machine learning system. And again, I'm talking about a machine learning system, not just a machine learning model. So there are a lot of aspects and activities and tasks that need to be performed when you work in a team or when you work towards, creating a machine learning system in industry. The data scientist job description, if I would call it, vis-a-vis the DevOps job description and the ML job description are kind of converging. If you just Google a bit on, what is a job description, what are the skill sets that a specific data scientist is expected to have, you will see all of this. You will see business understanding, you will see, very good algorithmic knowledge, statistics, maths, you will see infrastructure knowledge, you will see big data and whatnot. Of course, these are just the technical skills. There are skills beyond this peripheral. So how do you, kind of try to ensure that you are there if that is a path that you want to kind of pursue in your career? So if I look at it this way, there is a ML in theory and academic projects, which is, like I said, confined to an offline data set, looking at algorithm, and that knowledge is probably very good in terms of what is the best algorithm that should be used. And then there is ML, which is in practice and industry, which has got a huge other peripheral aspects to it. And there's certainly a gap that needs to be bridged. Now, this is one way you basically, start with what is the knowledge that you have in academia, and then, you kind of uh, stretch yourself to make the meets end when you start. I'd prefer the other way, which is, you build a bridge between the two, and this building a bridge of exercise can get started when you are pretty much, doing your academic work, academic projects as such. And when you're building the bridge, there are certain pillars, I would say, that I identify, and that is what I wanted to kind of relay to all of you. So the first one over there is the data engineering aspects. Okay, like I said, and I cannot enforce this topic more. When you're working as a machine learning engineer, when you're working as a data scientist, and that is a path that you want to, kind of pursue in the industry, the first thing that you should be ready is to dabble with huge data sets. Most of the time what happens is you start with a sample of data. You're working on small data sets which are offline, and you probably have done a wonderful, fantastic job of, identifying the algorithm and applying it on data, and you're getting very good accuracies. But when you start working on actual projects in industry, the first thing that you need to do is, number one, you're not dealing with, fine, curated, cleansed, high quality data. You're dealing with real life data, which is not clean, which is in no way clean, which is in no way organized, right? And absolutely, a massive data sets if you want to really build a good machine learning artificial intelligence model. So big data handling and exposure to those technologies, which can help you process, big data is one of the key things that, we need to be aware of. So just understanding of Python and those libraries which Python supports for machine learning is probably not enough. Some understanding and some work on, big data handling frameworks like Spark, Hadoop is something which adds a lot of value, which kind of helps you, bridge that, build that first block towards bridging that grid. The second thing that I want to, really emphasize over here is, when we talk about application of artificial intelligence and machine learning, we say that the power of machine learning is because it is able to crunch a lot of data, right? And if you want to crunch a lot of data, you cannot keep on doing it for long running schedules and hours of processing, right? You would want to actually be able to do massively parallel processing, which allows you to process data quickly, and then, kind of summarize those results that you want to give. And that is where, the distributing processing aspects of computer science really also play a very, very important role. So this is the first gap that, I would like to, identify. A very important, very crucial. I don't believe, that a good data scientist can really exist without having the core concepts of data engineering related to big data handling and being able to process, do distributed processing for machine learning algorithms. The second gap is the cloud concepts. See, the entire peripheral, base of machine learning is that we are able to do a lot of machine learning because, we have these, horizontal and vertical scaling architectures in cloud. The cloud infrastructure is very, very easily available. So not without denying the fact that, yes, there are data centers, private data centers where, an on-premise work that is happening on machine learning, a lot of it certainly is moving towards cloud because you want to stop your investments into infrastructure. And if that is happening, certain familiarity with cloud ecosystems and frameworks is assumed. So AWS, Azure, GCP, IBM Cloud, all of them have very good basic fundamental offerings which you can sign up for, which make you familiar with those systems and makes your life easy when you start working on building your machine learning and artificial intelligence solutions on top of this. I myself, rather all of us, when this cloud adoption started increasing, all of us started with, doing fundamentals, and these fundamentals are very easy, make you very comfortable when you start doing, advanced courses or advanced stuff on top of these frameworks. So that's, the second gap that you should be filling. Purely from an AI ML perspective, all these cloud companies, especially the biggies like AWS, Azure, GCP, are coming with a lot of AI services. Now, these AI services actually do not require you to have a lot of understanding and in-depth understanding of, how the artificial intelligence mechanisms are working at the back, but they certainly are. You should certainly be familiar with how you want to use them if you want to quickly create an AI enabled application. For example, you're working as a use case where you want to read some scanned images, make some sense out of what data is written in those images, be able to extract that data and then operate on that data. Do you really need to start from scratch to be able to read data out of images? Really, no. There are powerful services which all of these out of the box services which these cloud providers are providing, and they're very efficient because these machine learning algorithms or artificial intelligence services have been trained on massive data that these cloud people have already seen. So being able to make use of them instead of starting from scratch every time, knowing that what are those AI services which are upcoming and how soon can I really use them becomes a very important factor when you look at AI ML application in the industry. It's just not about starting or inventing something from scratch. It's also about being able to take something to the market basis of what is available out of the box. So that is the second gap that I want to identify. The third one is the DevOps basics. Now, those of you and all of us over here who are aware of computer science fundamentals, the continuous integration and continuous development becomes a very, very essential part of software engineering processes. And if that is the case, then very basic understanding of technologies like what is Jenkins, what is Docker become very, very, very crucial. And thanks to like I said, a lot of knowledge sharing and tutorials, free courses that are happening, all this is very easily available. This becomes very important when you're trying to build AI ML solutions, because you're talking about automating that entire flow. You're talking about running huge amount of algorithms processings for which you would need class scaling aspects like Kubernetes. So an exposure to this, and I'm not saying that you need to be DevOps expert. Of course, if you want to go into that area, that's a wonderful area for you to pursue as well. But having basics and basic understandings of these are essential for you to connect the dots and know that what is being asked for you or what is required to be as part of the entire ML workflow and ML systems. And the last thing that is there on the DevOps and basics on specifically on the ML side is that there are a lot of developments that are happening in the machine learning operationalization area. If you look at the software development life cycle vis-a-vis the machine learning development life cycle, there's a distinct difference, because you're also talking about input data that is going to actually change the behavior of your system. And that is where you need to start looking at how I can reproduce that entire step. How can I automate all this step? How can I ensure that with input data changes, the behavior of my ML based or AI based algorithm is not changing? So to enable all of this for engineers, there are a lot of upcoming machine learning operationalization platforms, some of which I have listed it over here. Having an understanding of those, like I said, at a high level, will very, very easily help you to connect dots when you start working in the industry. And the final one, and again, last but not the least, it's all about computer science fundamentals. When you're building a machine learning artificial intelligence model, and when you're building a workflow or a machine learning artificial intelligence enabled system, you're not going away from software development. The core concepts really remain the same. So you just cannot end up writing a huge Jupyter notebook with thousand lines of code, which is just not maintainable, which is just not understandable. So it's just not about Jupyter notebooks. Being able to write modularized code, being able to write Python scripts, being able to write Spark modules which are doing this become essentially very, very important. Basic hygiene values like code versioning, change tracking do remain when we are working on in the industry. It's not just about taking an offline data set, training some algorithm on top of it using a Jupyter notebook, and then exposing the outcomes of it. So these are the 4 key areas that I believe, some exposure to understanding would really help when you move in from an academic circle into the industry and you really want to pursue, AI and machine learning as your career. Of course, beyond the technology, there are these four areas that become very essential if you want to pursue this growth. The first is outcome oriented work. While there are wonderfully complex algorithms that you would want to try, sometimes when you want to achieve and align to the business outcomes, it has to be a combination of machine learning and maybe certain business rules or certain basic code that goes together hand in hand to achieve the outcome. So having that, keeping that eye on the goal, keeping that eye on the outcome that you want to achieve without just going into iterations of trying multiple algorithms becomes very, very important. When second point is communication, which if you look at all the tasks and the data scientist roles, you actually have to communicate with a lot of teams. You have to communicate with probably the business to understand what is the challenge that they're trying to solve, and then say, okay, can machine learning, artificial intelligence really solve this challenge? You're talking with probably the infrastructure team in terms of working with them to get the infra that you would need to really run this. You would also be talking with probably the application development team and seeing how machine learning is going to fit into all the other workflows and all the other stuff that are happening. So communication definitely is one of the key important things if you are trying to pursue your career into this area. The third is initiative. There's a lot of research. There is continuous advancements that are happening in this field. So keeping a tap of those and trying out those new technologies on the problem at hand becomes, imperative. And finally, accountability for what you're doing, which goes without whether you're working on machine learning, artificial intelligence. That I think remains as a key when you want to make a move from academia into the industry. And with that, I'll stop. In conclusion, what I wanted to say was there are these few gaps, and there is a way to kind of bridge it, taking advantage of numerous AI ML courses. There are so many of them good, and they don't just focus on the machine learning. Of course, there are ones which are going into the depth of machine learning, statistics, algorithms, but there are those which are realizing the value of having all these other understanding and are offered for free or for minimal remuneration. Please take advantage of that. The other very good way is, contributing to AI ML community platforms. I don't know how many of you are on Kaggle, how many of you are on Analytics Vidya. There's a community and a very young community, lot of good problems, examples of good problems being solved, and that's a very good way to keeping yourself updated with what is happening. And the third one is participation in hackathons. If you see, most of the hackathons that are announced these days would have 40% of at least people working on AI ML enabled technologies or solutions, and participation in such hackathons frequently will definitely help you get an understanding of where people are using this technology, how people are using this technology, and also excite you enough to kind of learn those peripheral areas. So I will kind of pause. This is what I wanted to cover without going into too much of depths of machine learning and artificial intelligence. I am really happy to take questions if there are any.
Thanks a lot, Anibha. And to be very frank enough, I think this is the best session that I have addressed personally live on AI and ML. And I can understand the superwoman power that you are for Persistent, and how this Persistent has been doing amazing in this particular technology and has a great footprint on a global level. So today, just to give a quick kind of a news item on this particular technology, rather, it's not precisely as AI ML, but very close to it, and almost it mentions that. So even the CEO of TCS has, in today's Times of India, the article, it's a small article. They're moving big time into technology which would be cloud-based, and right from where organizations are going to be working from different places due to the COVID situation. So infrastructure moves onto the cloud platform very much, and it's going to be very much relevant. And they as an organization also moving into this area. So thanks a lot, Anibha. And we'll quickly take some questions. And I think your session would be of huge demand, where I am seeing a lot of people would get back by saying we want more of it. Because in this short span that you have covered, I think you've covered every aspect of AI ML that a student would like to know. And I think they would further want to take more guidance on this. So
Sure.
We'll start with few questions that have come up and as many that we can take up in the time span available. So there's one student who has put a question which is, it's Shivani rather. I worked on one project face recognition based on ML, also want to work on many, but not getting the right guidance. Could you please suggest some good resources so my journey won't stop?
Sure, Shivani. So I think for the benefit of everybody, what I will definitely do is share a list of some of the courses that we believe are very, very important. Give you a complete aspect of the areas that we covered, which I'll definitely do. I think Shivani, for your specific question, I'm not sure. Like I said, are you part of? If you want to continuously, kind of learn from how others are solving a problem, a very good way is to take part in these Kaggle challenges. And there are others as well, where they keep throwing these challenges and you kind of work on them as a team or as an individual. The best way basically to develop your skills and have a learning is through participation in such platforms. So I would encourage not only Shivani but all the others to please register on these platforms and try out things. You get to see what others are doing, you get to see the leaders, you get to see what their solutions look like, and it helps you understand how you can also do better in that area.
Okay. So we have another question that's come up. I would like to ask which of the two is more important, learning the theory of how a model works or actually applying the model in practice?
From an industry perspective, I think this latter takes a lot of role. See, I am not denying. So all of you would be familiar with this term called as citizen data scientist, right? What we mean by that term is people who probably do not have as depth understanding of maths, statistics that go behind a machine learning algorithm, but are able to bridge the gap between a problem that they are solving and seeing that, okay, how I can use the AI ML algorithms. And these citizen data scientists are being enabled a lot. So you have a lot of auto ML solutions which are coming in the industry, right? What are these auto ML solutions? Basically, given a problem at hand, what they do is they use brute force and infrastructure power to run lot of algorithms in parallel. Okay, and when they do that, they will give you, okay, this is the best candidate algorithm that you should be using given the data at hand, right? Now, having said that, the data that you feed to these auto ML algorithms, that understanding of that data and being able to find out the best features, best aspects of that data does not go away. You still have to do that. But then, because this auto ML tools are there in the industry, the applications of AI without understanding a lot of core details becomes important. So yeah, I would say it's a latter if you're working at a initial level, but as you go into the depth and try to optimize, try to bridge that small optimization in the accuracy by even a few dot percentages, the first former part becomes more important.
Okay, so we have another question that's why is Python only used in AI and ML or IoT? No one is talking about Java or AI and ML.
Let me put it this way. It is not the aspect. The reason why Python has become very, very popular is number one, you have those it's first of all all available as part of open source. The more you open source things, the more IDs you have available, systems and infrastructure that is available for you to try, the addition to that keeps on happening more. So there is a vibrant community which is supporting the development of Python libraries, and that is how it became popular. Also, Python being interpretable language, the initial exploratory work that you do on it becomes very, very easy. So that is how it is. Other than that, there are other technologies like Scala and all, and even a lot of AI ML enabled applications which are built on Java. So it is not that it is completely discounted for an industry. Yes, the core algorithm initial model development is lot on Python because there are a lot of library and active development that is happening on those.
Okay, a little bit of an off-track question, but then there's just in terms of so much of technology flow happening in the industry. If we remove human dependency, won't it lead to unemployment?
Uh, yes and no, in the sense that the way I look at machine learning and artificial intelligence coming in, it is uh, it is always with an AI with a human in loop. So what you are trying to do is use the better cognitive aspects that human have, use the talent that you have towards doing better things which cannot be accomplished by machine. you know why would you want to keep on doing repetitive monotonous things which is going to number one, lead for a very typical routine for you. Number two, not really look at those other aspects where you might do wonderfully better. So the idea of bringing machine learning, the idea of bringing artificial intelligence is to remove those human aspects, is to ensure that the most repetitive things can be done by machines, and then you actually have people like us investing our brilliant brains into something better. That's how I look at it.
Okay. There's another question that's yeah. Main difference between supervised and unsupervised machine learning.
Oh, okay. That's so. Like I said, ML one-on-one or primer is something that I didn't plan to cover as part of this. I really don't think we should be going into details, but I'll be happy to kind of do a separate ML one-on-one if that is something that we
Yes.
want to do, Dominic. Because this will get into discussions. I'll have to take examples and all
I
of
see
those.
a good amount of questions that have come up, and maybe in the limited time frame that we have, we may not able to cover all. But we can all request you to write your questions across to us through the placement cell, and we'll take up this with Anibha, and I'm sure she will be more happy to answer each and every question. So something that has come is how can I use AI to recognize someone's expression to some products in case of product business? So a lot of, I think, direct technology usage is coming into question. I think you want to cover this, or we can take this up separately rather?
Yeah, we can take this up separately. There are, just to answer your question, like I said, a lot of AI services which are offered out of the box by cloud, which do not require you to do this from scratch. Okay. Now, there can be a very specific, for example, in the COVID times, there is always this need, right? You identify whether the person is wearing a mask or not wearing a mask. So there are some pre-trained models that are available across. And then what you do is for your specific need, you retrain on top of that. How to do that? I'll be happy to answer that separately. Cannot be covered like in 2-3 minutes.
So I have Varun who's has put a question. Currently, this is an era of deep learning. Then what is the importance and future of classical machine learning in industry?
Again, we can go into a lot of details of this, but see, Varun, just to answer that, you would know that deep learning works a lot when wherever there is a huge amount of data. Okay, and it is not that you don't need. There's a by the way misconception that I have always come across that when you're using deep learning, all you do is you throw data to it and it will start doing everything by itself. That is not what it is. People who have actually invested into working in deep learning will realize that there's a lot of effort that goes into creating a deep learning based application as well. So number one is that. Number two, for deep learning to work effectively, also the first thing that you're looking at is huge amount of data, which might not always be available for all use cases that you start with. So you might want to start with classical things, and then as you start collecting more data. Right now what is happening is, in the industry, when you're starting building an application, you're actually starting an AI ML enabled application. You're not waiting for the data to come. You actually start using those techniques of AI and ML that can be applied first, and then slowly move towards advancing them. So it's happening kind of in parallel. So I don't think that with the advent of deep learning, everything to do with classical machine learning is going to go away.
Great. So I'll take this one question at my level. What should TPU and college course curriculum do in immediate basis in order to reduce the gap between academia and industry? Well, we as an organization are been collaborating with a lot of institutions, and in order to bridge the gap by having interventions where we run specific technology stack programs with institutes, where it's on a train and hire model. The entire purpose to do so is to ensure that students have a better understanding of what happens at the corporate level, and also bridge it with the knowledge that they get at the academic side, and to get a combination of this and make them more equipped to get a handhold of the technology. So we are doing a lot of activity in these areas and mostly into the emerging technologies that are doing great in the industry. So we will definitely be reaching out to the different colleges, and we can open up this thing to a lot of the students so that maximum can benefit out of this. So there's another question that's more specific in terms of the technology. What is the difference between regression and classification? I think again it's a huge topic to take charge of. Do you want to take this now, or you would like to maybe answer this at a later stage?
Yeah, I think a lot of questions that I see are around, machine learning one-on-one, and there is a specific Dominic, talk that we do on that. I think we should just collect all these questions
Right.
and then, see if we want to, pass that on to the students over here.
Okay. So ideally, we would be having a feedback survey that would be rolled out to the participants, which would be sent through the training and placement cell. So we would request each and every student who has a query or a question to put it across, and we will share the same with Anibha, and she would be most welcome to take ahead each and every question and give it the best answer possible. We also see there's a huge demand in this particular technology in terms of the know-how. So we'll see if we can plan another session, Anibha, with the students, and we can take it in a group-wise thing so that we have more focus on certain topics, which we can do it maybe in a phased manner.
Sure.
From the persistent campus team, Career Recropedia doesn't end by today, being the last concluding session for the season. We are looking ahead of starting this with a more vigor and more objectivity in the coming months ahead. And definitely this particular session of Anibha, I think we will see this in huge demand in the coming months ahead. So we will get in touch with you, Anibha. It's been great listening to you, and it really you are an encyclopedia in technology. But I think there's a lot that is still available to be shown to the students. So thanks a lot for your time and a wonderful session. For students, definitely you can follow us on Insta, Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn for upcoming sessions. We would be expecting a lot of you folks to be engaged on our website also. That would be upgraded recently, and you can see a lot of things happening. We're conducting a lot of training sessions, and very soon we would be starting with our campus. So there's a lot of positive activity that's going to be coming in for ahead in the months. So we look forward for your participation actively in all the events that we organize. Thank you for all of the students, participants, the training and placement cell, especially for ensuring that we had a huge amount of student pool that participated in all our sessions. And we look forward for the same cooperation in the future events. We also look forward for whatever feedback that comes in terms of improvement. We also would like to have a face-to-face kind of an interaction in future once things get normal. So a big thank you from the entire campus team. Career Recropedia would come back with a bang. So all the best, and have a great day and stay safe. Look forward to getting in touch with you again. Thank you.